The Chronicles of Jake Kivilian. Chapter 1. Measured Steel. Jake Kivilian returned to his dormitory chamber well past dusk, the corridor lanterns already dimmed to their lowest flame. The day had been long. His muscles were sore from vigorous training drills. His head ached from endless, mind-numbing lectures on monster taxonomy, and many eye-straining hours in the library past curfew. The academy believed in discipline, and discipline required sleep. Pausing at his room, he found the door unlocked. The hall carried a lingering presence, a sweet, smoky cedar scent from his uncle's ever-lit pipe, always smoldering away wherever Professor Bartholomew went. Uncle Bartholomew never announced himself loudly. He preferred quiet gestures, objects placed rather than words spoken, questions implied rather than asked. Left on Jake's desk sat a leather-bound journal. It was not new. The spine bore the shallow cracks of the decades. The clasp was brass, dulled with age. The leather itself carried a faint scent of smoke and old oil, the smell of campaign tents and travel chests. Outside the academy dormitory, the wind wailed at the shutters. Rain whispered against the glass in careful, persistent taps. A chill ran down his spine as Jake sat at his desk and drew the lamp closer. Then he picked up the journal. The clasp resisted, then yielded with a brittle click. The first page was covered in sharp, slanted handwriting, ink browned by years, and yet the words seemed alive in the lamplight, as if written moments ago by a man too restless to sleep. The first entry read, Logbook, Guild of the Argent Fang, Yornabeer, Fleetfoot. Jake inhaled sharply as he caught his breath. He knew that name. It was the scout, the only survivor who had carried word back from Carthspire Ridge when no one else returned. Uncle Bartholomew had once said, History belongs to those who survive long enough to write it. Jake looked down at the desk. There was a note. You're old enough now to know the truth of what happened. I hope this journal will help you. Profess, Uncle Bartholomew. Jake sat upright as he slowly turned the pages of the journal. The handwriting was no careful documentation of a scholar or writings of a bard in flowing script. It was firm, legible, but certainly field-written. Amberlight 14th. Orders came down from the guildmaster before dawn. Me and my unit were woken up before first light. Apparently, Thurns Hollow sent out a distress call, and nothing else. Sounds like a big one to me. The whole town is gone silent. Commander Kivilian ordered us to make ready, while he retrieved orders from the guild. He's not one for speeches. Never has been. But when he straps on Vaildrin, even the green recruits stop talking and start checking their kit. There's something in the way he carries that blade, like he's there to shape the world's outcome. Our unit's 10 strong, 4 rangers, 2 alchemists, a warden priest, 2 heavies, and myself as scout. Commander Elmond Kivilian. We all trust him. He's never led us astray, and our casualty rate is lower than any other in the guild. But he also whispers that monsters have a taste for heroes. It gives me a tingle at the nape of my neck that is unsettling. We leave at first light tomorrow. Amberlight 15th. Supplies are packed, maps marked, spirits unsteady but ready. Professor Bartholomew, Hellman's brother, he came to see us off. Hellman handed him a sealed letter for his boy, Jake. Bartholomew just smiled and said, You'll give it to him yourself when you get back. I wish I shared his certainty, but monsters don't care about certainty. Amberlight, 23rd. We reached the lower valleys of Carthspire Range by midday. Smoke on the horizon, not the thin, grey kind from cook fires, but thick and oily. The air reeks of scorched stone. No wind, no birds. Even the insects have fled. I just scouted ahead with the second squad, looking for tracks or remains. Found both. God's help me. The village of Thurns Hollow is gone. The foundations are smouldering, and what walls remain are just black glass. Whatever came through here burned so hot it melted the cobbles. No survivors, just outlines. Shadows on the walls. Helmand is standing in the rubble. Has been for a while. He's not speaking. He's just looking toward the mountains. Veldrin gripped tightly in his hand as the runes along the blade flare red. He ordered no burial rites, no salvage, just a single command. We move on. The alchemists are collecting residue samples and whatever they can find. The warden says it reeks of old magic, older than the guild. Whatever this thing is, it isn't hunting for food. It's erasing us. Emberlight 25th. Hellman believes we found it. The trail led us into the upper spines of the range, to a fissure the map identifies as Cradle Peak, a name that doesn't fit anymore. The earth here is scarred by something enormous clawing its way through, and carving out massive paths in the mountain stone. What kind of a beast can carve solid granite like this? The air is humming. We can feel magic. It's a kind of thrumming under our skin, like a heartbeat that doesn't quite belong to us. Every compass spins and our wards flicker like candlelight in the wind. We established a forward blind about 100 yards from a cave mouth. From there we can see the heat shimmer pouring out like breath. The stones are slick with crystallized soot. Elmond is certain the beast rests here, maybe even nesting. He believes this is the best chance we'll get to strike first. I think either heroes or martyrs will be created in the events to follow. I pray it's the former. I fear it will be the latter. We have a plan. Alchemists will trigger frostburst traps along the range to slow the creature's ascent, while our casters hammer it from range. Helmand and the heavy team will move in for the kill. The wind's picking up, hot and sharp, like something exhaling from deep within the mountain. I have a terrible feeling about this. We move at dawn. Emberlight 26th. Screw making a log. This is now my message to whomever might get these pages. Bartholomew, or perhaps Jake. Dawn came red. We took it as a sign of victory. I should have known better. The traps fired perfectly. The alchemist's frostburst detonated along the ridge, sealing the cave in a storm of ice and dust. The ground shook with a roar that followed, a sound like the sky tearing apart. Then came the light. Not fire, something brighter, hotter, older. It melted the frost into steam before it even touched the ground. Our ward shattered like glass. The beast stepped out. It did not charge in. It did not crash in. It stepped out, shattering what was left of the frost traps with no effort at all. It stands at least 6 men high. Its scales are a metallic black like polished wrought iron. Its head is narrow and pointed, with a crown of horns curled and twisted like brambles. It looked at us with a cold calculation, then struck. The mages fell first. The beast's breath didn't just burn, it unmade them. Their bodies were there one heartbeat, ash the next. The healer never had time to reach them. The heavies charged anyway. Gods bless them, they charged. Helmand led from the front, Veldrin singing in his hands. The blade's runes flared silver against the blades, carving through scales thicker than any shield I've ever seen. I saw him sever one of the beast's claws, a toe the size of a man's chest, and drive a strike clean across its forearm. The wound smoked black. The dragon screamed as scorching hot blood poured from the wound. The world trembled and shook. The beast's rage was stronger than its pain. It swept its wing, and in one motion it crushed 3 men into the cliffside. The rest scattered. I remember the smell of ozone and iron. I remember Hellman shouting orders through the firestorm, pulling the wounded back even as his own armor glowed red from the heat. Then I saw it strike him. Jake's vision began to narrow, the ink on the page. The dawn began to recede. The light from the lamp darkened at the edges of his sight, but he forced himself to read on. The beast came down, claws first. Elmond raised Vaildrin and met it. The blade held. He didn't. The dragon's talons pierced clean through his chestplate. He fell to one knee, coughing blood. But still he swung the sword. Even dying, he drew its blood again. Jake's vision blurred. He blinked once, twice, 3 times. Still the lines refused to become clear. Wiping the moisture from his eyes, he continued to read. I ran to him, stupidly, uselessly. He caught my arm, shoved Vaildrin into my hands. The light from his eyes was fading fast. He said my name, told me to run. He said to find his brother and tell him the dragon bleeds. It can die. Moisture gathered, unbidden at the edge of Jake's vision. He did not wipe it away immediately. Instead, he let it sit there, a thin distortion between himself and the ink. His heart ached. He had forgotten to breathe and measured and intentionally as he had trained to do. He had not cried when the blade came home. He had not grieved when the helm was laid in the crypt. He had been told, gently but firmly, that he was the heir now. He had accepted that as fact. But this was not inheritance. This was his father's death in its unvarnished horror. It was not the tale of a hero, but the tragic telling of a man's death. Jake inhaled slowly through his nose. His breath shook despite him, his jaw tight, eyes burning. One tear slipped free despite his effort and struck the page. The ink didn't run. The words remained. He lowered his head for a moment, not in collapse, not in surrender, but in acknowledgement. Vaildrin rests on his own hip now, and he had become accustomed to its weight. Tonight, however, it felt heavier than ever. He lifted his gaze and continued reading. He would not look away. The world went white. I don't remember how I made it down the mountain. The next thing I recall is waking up beneath a dead tree, Vaildrin beside me, humming faintly like it remembered him. I am the last, and I will deliver his words. Emberlight, 29th. It's been 3 days since Cradle Peak burned. The dragon is gone, for now. Its roars faded eastward sometime after dawn. The tremors have stopped, and the smoke has thinned to a dull grey haze that clings to everything. The mountain still smells of blood and lightning. I made my way back to the ridge under the cover of the fog. The pass is unrecognizable. The traps, the camp, the men, they're all gone. The ground itself has been turned to glass. Vaildrin hums faintly when I draw near the scorch marks, as if it knows who was taken. I found what I could. There wasn't much. A handful of guild insignias, bits of scorched steel, a ring, I think it was Arvin's, a piece of the healer's staff. It's still faintly worn with holy runes. I gathered them all into my bag, one by one, whispering their names as I did. The bag feels heavier than it should. I found a piece of Hellman's armor near the edge of the chasm. I think it's its helmet, split down the center, but it's still gleaming beneath the soot. I cleaned it as best as I could and wrapped it in my cloak. I'll take it to Bartholomew myself. No bodies, no burials, only ashes. Maybe that's fitting. Heroes should return to the wind they came from. I marked the site in the guild's ledger as Hellman's Stand. Maybe someone will change the map someday. I don't know if I'll ever stop hearing that roar, but I know this much. The dragon bleeds. Hellman made sure that. Jake, if these pages ever find you, know your father's fight wasn't in vain. He faced the impossible. He made it falter. His courage burned brighter than its fire. The hunt isn't over, but the next chapter won't be mine. The Ornabeer Fleetfoot, Field Scout, Guild of the Argent Fang. For several moments, Jake sat completely still, the last line of Fleetfoot's log lingering in his thoughts, like smoke that refused to thin. The hunt isn't over, but the next chapter won't be mine. Jake closed the journal slowly. The leather made a soft, deliberate sound as the pages pressed together. He placed it on the desk. The academy discourages weapons within the dormitories. It discourages many things, in fact. Impulsiveness, recklessness, unfinished thoughts. Jake drew the blade anyway. Valdrin slid free in a controlled whisper of steel. The lamplight shone along its length, tracing the faint runes carved into the fuller. They are quiet tonight, still, dormant. He turned the blade slightly, studying it. The steel had been raised against something that melted mountains. It had pierced scales. It had failed to kill, but it had not broken. Jake lowered himself into a steady guard stance, not with the flourish of a duelist, not with the aggression of a recruit trying to impress an instructor. A measured, technical posture, elbow aligned, wrist relaxed, point forward. He exhaled slowly. The dragon bleeds. This truth altered Jake's world. Jake stepped forward and made a single, precise cut through empty air. The blade hummed, not loudly, not bright, but distinctly. Jake stilled. His eyes widened. For the first time in over a decade, the runes along Valdrin's fuller shimmered to life. A faint silver glow beneath the lamplight. Jake lowered the sword and returned it to its scabbard with deliberate care. Then he spoke, not loudly, not dramatically, but cleanly enough that the stone walls bore witness. I will finish what you began. The storm outside did not relent. A vow had been made this night, and vows are not easily broken. Somewhere, far beyond the reach of the Academy's lantern light, beyond maps, beyond roads, and beyond certainty, something ancient stirs. If you found value in listening to this chapter, please consider leaving a like and subscribing. It really helps keep the forge lit here. Chapter 2 is already underway. It's with my editor as we make some fine additions and refinements. I'll be recording that soon. Until then, I will see you in the next chapter. Take care, everybody. Velasco out.